They told us these were just myths, old stories told around fires. But what if they were never just stories? What if the ancients were warning us and we simply weren't listening? Tonight you're not just falling asleep. You're uncovering 13 forgotten codes buried in time, mistaken for myth. The curse of knowledge loss. One of the most haunting concepts in ancient warnings lies within the idea of knowledge lost through time. This curse is not just about forgetting facts or losing a piece of information. It's about the complete erasure of understanding that once shaped civilizations. Many cultures, from the Babylonians to the Maya, spoke of times when wisdom was stored in sacred texts or hidden in cryptic symbols, only to be lost forever, sometimes as a result of tragic events or deliberate acts. The fear that these knowledge would fade, and with it, the downfall of entire societies. The loss of knowledge wasn't merely seen as an accident or a natural occurrence. It was feared as something more sinister, something that could undo everything humanity had built. The curse itself was clear. If you don't preserve the truth, you may never see the light again. In many ancient cultures, sacred texts or hidden archives were protected with a deep sense of reverence. Priests, scribes, and keepers of wisdom were tasked with preserving knowledge from one generation to the next. But, as history has shown, this knowledge has often been destroyed in the chaos of war, conquest, or the ravages of time. Think about the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, or the burning of ancient texts by early Christian authorities. These were not just books. They were repositories of all the accumulated wisdom and scientific knowledge of the known world. When they were destroyed, it was as if a veil was cast over an entire era, obscuring its true depth and understanding. The curse is still relevant today. We live in an age where knowledge seems to expand exponentially, yet we can still fall prey to forgetting or losing vital information. The modern equivalent of this curse is the loss of ancient wisdom to time, or the destruction of cultural history in the face of modernization. How many forgotten civilizations had technologies or insights that we will never know? And how many have we lost because we couldn't keep their secrets safe? Consider the mystery of the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer designed to predict astronomical positions and eclipses. For centuries, it was a forgotten device, its complex mechanics lost to time. Even today, the knowledge contained in it is still a subject of debate among historians and engineers. If the Greeks could create such an advanced machine, what else have we lost in the sands of time? The curse of knowledge lost also speaks to a deeper, psychological fear. It's not just the fear of what we may have forgotten, but the unsettling feeling that we may be forgetting things right now. How many innovations, ideas, or creative visions are lost to us simply because we don't value them enough to preserve them? And perhaps the most troubling part of this curse is the possibility that humanity, in its current state, might be too disconnected from the past to truly understand the extent of what has been lost. In some ancient cultures, the warning was clear: guard the knowledge, or it will disappear. The lost knowledge was never just about the forgotten. It was about the consequences of that loss. Entire civilizations were built on these ideas, and to lose them was akin to losing the very foundation of reality itself. Imagine that future generations might never know the wisdom of the ancients, and we, too, might be living through an age of profound loss without even realizing it. As we venture into the night, wrapped in the mysteries of these ancient warnings, ask yourself, what pieces of knowledge have we forgotten, not just from the past, but from within ourselves? Are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes? Will we one day look back and realize we were living through a time that will be lost to future generations? The fear of this curse still lingers. Echoes of Atlantis. The legend of Atlantis, often seen as a mere myth, is in fact one of the most enduring warnings passed down from antiquity. Ancient philosophers like Plato told the story of a grand civilization that existed thousands of years ago. a society, advanced in both technology and culture, far ahead of anything we can imagine today. Yet, this great civilization fell in an instant, sinking beneath the waves as a result of their own hubris. The message that comes with the myth of Atlantis is both simple and terrifying. A great civilization can rise to unimaginable heights, only to fall into nothingness if they ignore the consequences of their actions. The most chilling part of the Atlantis story isn't the fall itself, but the eerie silence that followed. The echoes of this civilization can still be heard in the warnings passed down through history, warnings about the dangers of overreach, the temptation of unchecked power, and the risk of environmental destruction. Atlantis wasn't just a victim of natural disaster. It was a cautionary tale about the consequences of arrogance and the inability to maintain balance with the world around you. Ancient texts and oral traditions from around the world contain fragmented pieces of this tale. The Sumerians, Egyptians, and Greeks all spoke of lost civilizations, of advanced technologies and spiritual wisdom that were lost to the ages. Could they be referring to Atlantis, or could there have been other cultures just like it, whose wisdom and achievements were swallowed by time? Some believe that remnants of these ancient societies exist in the form of mysterious megalithic structures, such as the pyramids or the stone circles at places like Stonehenge, which seem to contain knowledge far beyond what was thought possible for their time. The disappearance of Atlantis is not just a loss of a city or a people. It is a symbol of the fragility of civilization itself. Atlantis serves as a reminder that no matter how advanced a society becomes, it is never immune to the forces of nature or consequences of human folly. The ancient warning echoes. Every civilization, no matter how powerful, is one step away from collapse. Could we be living in the modern version of Atlantis? With technological advances, political power, and environmental changes all converging in unpredictable ways, are we ignoring the signs that our own civilization could be heading toward its own fall? The most unsettling part of the Atlantis myth is the possibility that it wasn't just a story. It might have been based on a real event. There is a theory that Atlantis was a real place, located somewhere in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic Ocean, and that its destruction was not simply a fantastical tale, but a grim reality. The idea that such a civilization could have existed and disappeared without a trace leaves us wondering. How many other ancient cultures have come and gone, leaving behind only faint echoes of their once great wisdom? But what if these echoes are still with us? Some believe that the knowledge of Atlantis was not lost, but scattered and hidden, waiting to be uncovered by those with the right understanding. Could the secret to saving humanity from its own destructive tendencies lie in the ancient wisdom of Atlantis? The warnings they left behind are too valuable to ignore, yet many of us remain blind to them. If we fail to heed these warnings, we may find ourselves following the same path as the Atlanteans, lost to the sea of history, forgotten by time. The echoes of Atlantis are not just the whispers of a lost civilization. They are a warning to us all. As we move forward in our own time, we must ask ourselves, are we listening to the lessons of the past, or are we doomed to repeat the mistakes of those who came before us? Do you think the story of Atlantis holds any truth, or is it purely a myth? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The Tower That Split Minds. The story of the Tower of Babel is one of the most widely known in Western history, often interpreted as a tale of human pride and divine retribution. According to ancient texts, humanity once spoke a single language and lived in harmony, common purpose. But they sought to build a tower that would reach the heavens, a symbol of their ambition to challenge the gods. In their desire to make a name for themselves, they defied the natural order. The gods, angered by their arrogance, struck the tower down and scattered humanity across the earth, causing them to speak different languages and lose their shared understanding. But what if the Tower of Babel wasn't just a story about divine punishment? What if it was a warning about the consequences of overreaching and losing connection with one another? Could the tower represent not only the ambition to challenge the heavens, but also the idea of division and fragmentation, especially in the mind? The concept of the tower, after all, is not only about physical height, but about the building of an edifice that attempts to bring all human knowledge and understanding together into one unified form. In trying to build something that encompassed everything, humanity inadvertently tore itself apart. The tower symbolizes not just a loss of unity, but the breaking apart of the human mind itself. The more we try to unify knowledge, to build a single narrative or worldview that makes sense of everything, the more we risk losing our sense of connection to reality. In the attempt to reach the heavens, humanity fractured into countless competing perspectives and conflicting beliefs. The tower's fall can be seen as a reflection of the collapse of a unified worldview, as the pursuit of absolute knowledge or a singular truth leads to the splitting of minds into 1,000 directions. Throughout history, we've seen the consequences of trying to create one truth for all people. From religious dogmas to political ideologies, when a single narrative is imposed upon a diverse world, it causes division and confusion. The Tower of Babel isn't just a myth about a physical structure. It is a metaphor for the dangerous pursuit of intellectual or ideological supremacy. The more rigidly we cling to a singular truth, the more we risk losing the ability to communicate, to understand one another, and to truly see the world in all its complexity. The fragmentation of the mind caused by the tower's fall mirrors the intellectual and spiritual fragmentation we experience today. Just as the people of Babel were divided into different linguistic and cultural groups, our minds today are divided by competing beliefs, ideologies, and worldviews. What the Tower story teaches us is that when we try to force all knowledge and wisdom into one system, we lose the richness of diversity. We lose the ability to truly understand the vastness of the universe and the complexity of the human experience. The lesson of the Tower is one of humility. It reminds us that our attempts to build the perfect system or structure of thought are fraught with danger. We cannot control every aspect of reality, nor should we attempt to force the world into a single, rigid framework. The Tower's destruction is a warning that when we try to elevate ourselves above others, to create a singular truth that everyone must follow, we risk fracturing not only our societies but our own minds as well. In our modern age, we still see the echoes of the Tower. From the rise of narrow ideologies to the breakdown of meaningful communication between individuals and cultures, we live in a world increasingly divided by competing truths. The Tower of Babel teaches us that in the pursuit of unity, we must remain open to the diversity of thought and experience that make us human. Only by accepting the complexity of the world around us can we begin to rebuild what was lost in the collapse of the Tower. Whispers from the Serpent Cults. The serpent has long been a symbol of knowledge, power, and transformation, often appearing as both a deity and a destructive force in various ancient cultures. From the serpentine gods of Mesopotamia to the serpents in the Garden of Eden, these creatures have always carried a deep, mysterious meaning. But beneath their divine or evil appearances lies an ancient truth, one that has been passed down through the whispered secrets of serpent cults throughout history. In ancient Egypt, the serpent was associated with wisdom and regeneration. The symbol of the Urios, a rearing cobra, was worn by pharaohs to signify their divine right to rule. It was believed that the serpent had the power to guard sacred knowledge and protect the ruler from all threats. However, the serpent was not always viewed as a benevolent figure. In other cultures, it symbolized temptation and chaos, most notably in the biblical story of Adam and Eve, where the serpent is the instrument of the fall of man. But the serpent's dual nature isn't just limited to religious symbolism. It extends to the very way we think about knowledge and transformation. Serpent cults, shrouded in secrecy, were believed to hold the ancient wisdom of the universe, wisdom that could transcend time and space. These cults, which operated in hidden corners of the ancient world, used the serpent as a metaphor for the transformative power of hidden knowledge. Followers of these cults believed that by gaining access to this secret wisdom, they could transcend the limitations of the physical world, achieve immortality, or even become one with the divine. They saw the serpent as the key to unlocking this forbidden knowledge, the keeper of the mysteries that lay beyond human comprehension. But why was this knowledge so dangerous? What made the serpent's whispers so potent? To understand this, we must look at the serpent's symbolism as a force of transformation. The serpent sheds its skin, leaving behind its old form and emerging renewed. In many cultures, this act of renewal represents spiritual awakening and the shedding of ignorance. The knowledge hidden within the serpent cults was not meant for the faint of heart. It was believed that once you were exposed to this wisdom, you could never return to your previous state of understanding. The power of the serpent could break the boundaries of the human mind and push its followers to the edge of madness or enlightenment. In the context of these cults, the serpent's whisper was not just a call to knowledge, it was a warning. Knowledge once gained could not be unlearned. It could shatter one's understanding of reality and expose them to realms of existence that were too vast to comprehend. The cults believed that only those with the strongest wills could endure the consequences of such knowledge. It was said that many initiates who ventured too far into the cult's teachings were driven mad, unable to reconcile the truths they had uncovered with the limitations of the human mind. The idea of a serpent whispering forbidden knowledge was not confined to ancient cults. In many mystical traditions, the serpent represents the awakening of hidden powers within the mind and spirit. In Hinduism, for example, the serpent Kundalini is said to lie dormant at the base of the spine, waiting to be awakened through meditation and spiritual practices. When it rises, it is believed to unlock higher consciousness and grant access to divine wisdom. But just like the serpent cults, the awakening of this power is fraught with danger. To truly understand the universe and oneself through these hidden teachings requires not only mental fortitude, but also an ability to navigate the delicate balance between enlightenment and madness. Throughout history, whispers of serpent knowledge have continued to surface, often in the form of secret societies and esoteric traditions. From the mystery schools of Egypt to the hidden teachings of alchemists, the allure of ancient wisdom guarded by serpents has captivated the minds of seekers throughout the ages. But even today, there are those who still seek the whispers of the serpent, hoping to uncover the secrets that could change everything. So, what does this ancient serpent wisdom really mean for us today? It serves as a reminder that knowledge, power, and transformation come with great responsibility. The whispers of the serpent may offer the promise of enlightenment, but they also come with a price. To seek the truth is to walk a path that may lead to profound awakening or utter madness. Like the serpent itself, this path is both a symbol of divine knowledge and a cautionary tale of the dangers that lie hidden within the pursuit of absolute understanding. The Skyfire Prophecy. Throughout history, numerous civilizations have gazed up at the sky and looked for signs, seeking omens in the stars, comets, and the very heavens themselves. One of the most intriguing and persistent prophecies throughout the ages has been the concept of the Skyfire, a powerful and destructive event that some believe will mark the end of the world or signal the beginning of a new era. But what is the Skyfire Prophecy, and why has it captivated the imaginations of so many ancient cultures? The origins of the Skyfire Prophecy can be traced back to ancient Mesopotamia, where the Sumerians and Babylonians recorded ominous celestial events in their astronomical texts. They believed that the heavens were filled with gods, and that certain cosmic events, such as the appearance of comets or unusual alignments of stars, were signs from the gods themselves. the skyfire was often depicted as a fiery celestial event, such as a comet streaking across the sky, or a sudden burst of flame from the heavens, foretelling major changes on Earth. The ancient civilizations saw these fiery apparitions as a warning of doom or a herald of a dramatic shift in the world order. In many cultures, fire has been a symbol of purification, destruction, and renewal. The ancient Greeks believed that fire was one of the fundamental elements of the universe, representing both the destructive and transformative forces of nature. In Norse mythology, the apocalypse, known as Ragnarok, was preceded by a great battle between gods and monsters, but it was also marked by a fiery destruction that engulfed the world, leaving only ashes behind. The skyfire prophecy shared similar theme, the idea that the sky would burn, signaling a cleansing or transformation that could reshape the world. Perhaps the most well-known representation of the skyfire prophecy comes from the Mayans. They believed that the appearance of a great comet or a sudden burst of fire in the sky would signal the arrival of a new era. In the Mayan calendar, the end of one cycle was marked by the appearance of a great skyfire that would bring about the destruction of the old world and the birth of the new. The Mayans were highly advanced in their understanding of astronomy, and their calendar was based on precise astronomical observations. They believed that certain celestial events were not only signs of impending disaster, but also the necessary catalysts for rebirth and renewal. The concept of the skyfire was also prevalent in ancient Chinese and Japanese cultures. In China, the appearance of strange celestial phenomena, including comets and meteor showers, was often interpreted as a sign of the emperor's divine mandate coming to an end. The emperor was seen as the son of heaven, and his rule was believed to be directly connected to the harmony of the cosmos. A skyfire in this context could signal the fall of a dynasty or the end of an era. Similarly, in Japan, the belief in celestial omens was strong, and the appearance of a comet or the sudden burning of the sky was sometimes seen as a harbinger of major changes in the political or spiritual order. But the most fascinating aspect of the skyfire prophecy is not just its presence in ancient cultures, but its eerie relevance to modern times. In our contemporary world, we still look to the sky for signs, and many people believe that the appearance of certain celestial bodies, like comets or meteors, could signal a coming event of global significance. The idea of a fiery event from the sky has been revived in modern interpretations, from apocalyptic movies to theories about extraterrestrial encounters. Whether it's a comet colliding with Earth or a solar flare destroying our technology, the concept of the skyfire has remained a symbol of our collective fear and fascination with the unknown. In fact, some of the most advanced scientific theories today point to cosmic events that could resemble the skyfire prophecy. For example, scientists have warned that a massive solar flare, an explosion of energy from the sun, could one day cause widespread destruction on Earth, knocking out satellites, power grids, and communication systems. This event, though far from apocalyptic, could bring about a new world order in terms of how we live and interact with technology. In a sense, the skyfire prophecy may not be as far-fetched as it first appears. Whether or not we truly believe in the ancient prophecies or their modern counterparts, the concept of the skyfire continues to captivate the human imagination. The imagery of a burning sky, a celestial event that signals the end or transformation of the world, serves as both a warning and a reminder of the fragility of our existence. The skyfire reminds us that, while we may think we control our fate, there are forces, beyond our understanding, forces that could change the course of history in an instant. Voices from beneath the earth. For centuries, myths and legends have been passed down, speaking of mysterious voices and sounds emanating from beneath the earth. Whether these voices are seen as omens, warnings, or simply echoes of the past, They carry with them an undeniable sense of mystery and unease. From ancient civilizations to modern-day phenomena, the idea of voices from the depths of the earth has been a source of fascination, fear, and speculation. In many ancient cultures, the earth was not just a physical entity. It was alive with its own spirit. The Greeks referred to this concept as Gaia, the personification of the earth as a living, breathing organism. In their myths, voices that emanated from deep within the earth were often seen as messages from the gods or spirits of the underworld. These voices were seen as reflections of the earth's inner consciousness, providing guidance or warnings. For Native American tribes, the earth was also a living entity, and some tribes believed that it could communicate through subtle sounds or vibrations. The voices from beneath the earth were often seen as messages that could only be understood by those attuned to the spiritual realm. In many traditions, these sounds were attributed to ancestors, guiding those who were open to listening. For instance, the Navajo and Hopi tribes saw the earth as a living entity and believed it communicated through the wind and subterranean vibrations, often perceived as voices calling from the depths. In Chinese and African folklore, voices from below were believed to come from spirits residing deep within the earth. These voices were considered to be a form of communication with the deceased or a spiritual realm beyond our comprehension. Rituals and ceremonies were often performed to connect with these spirits and hear their messages. The African tradition of ancestor worship, for instance, was heavily tied to these underground voices, as it was believed that the spirits of ancestors could speak to the living through the earth. In modern times, mysterious underground sounds have been reported in various parts of the world. From strange rumblings to eerie howls, these noises have sparked debates about their origins. Some attribute these sounds to natural causes like earthquakes or tectonic shifts, while others believe they are supernatural or extraterrestrial in origin. The bloop, a mysterious sound detected in the ocean in 1997, is a notable example. Though it was eventually attributed to icequakes or underwater volcanoes, its eerie rhythm led many to speculate about its origins, with some even suggesting that it could be the sound of an unknown creature. The bloop is just one example of how these unexplainable sounds captivate our imagination. Another famous phenomenon is the Hesdalen rites in Norway, where locals report seeing strange lights and hearing unusual sounds coming from beneath the earth. Some believe these are connected to an ancient force or spirit deep within the earth, while others look for scientific explanations, including atmospheric gases or plasma fields. Despite these scientific theories, the idea that the earth itself might be communicating with us through these sounds persists. These strange occurrences often tie into the larger mystery of the earth itself being a living entity, full of untapped energy and consciousness that remains largely beyond our understanding. With advances in technology, we can now record these sounds more accurately, and some researchers have even attempted to link them to specific geological or even extraterrestrial phenomena. Still, many of these voices remain unexplained. Whether it's the low hum of the Earth's tectonic plates shifting, the howling winds in the caves, or the rhythmic beats that echo from deep underground, the idea of voices from beneath the Earth continues to capture our imaginations. These voices may not just be natural phenomena. They could be remnants of an ancient spiritual force, an entity speaking to us from the deep, a force we have yet to fully understand. The star alignment Omen. For millennia, humanity has gazed upon the stars, believing that their alignments signaled powerful omens. Across cultures, the positioning of stars was considered a key to understanding cosmic events and their impact on human affairs. Ancient civilizations, such as the Babylonians, Egyptians, and Mayans, believed that these celestial alignments were not just random occurrences, but divinely orchestrated messages that could reveal the fate of empires, individuals, and even the earth itself. The Babylonians, for example, meticulously studied the stars, recording their movements and connecting them to the rise and fall of civilizations. When certain stars aligned, they predicted the birth of kings, the start of wars, or the end of an era. The Mayans took star alignment even further, using it to map out their calendar and predict astronomical events with incredible precision. They believed that rare alignments, particularly those involving Venus and the Milky Way, held the power to open portals between worlds. According to their beliefs, these alignments allowed the gods to communicate with the earth, guiding decisions that would shape the future. The Mayan pyramids were built with astonishing accuracy to align with celestial bodies, showcasing the importance they placed on these cosmic events. Meanwhile, the ancient Egyptians saw the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, as an omen that heralded the annual flooding of the Nile River. This event was vital for their agricultural society, marking a time of renewal and growth. The alignment of Sirius with the Great Pyramid of Giza further emphasized its significance, positioning the star as a cosmic harbinger of abundance and life. However, misalignments or unusual star patterns were sometimes viewed with suspicion, seen as signs of disaster or divine wrath. In modern times, the fascination with star alignments hasn't diminished. Astrology, which draws from ancient traditions, continues to interpret these celestial events as predictors of change, both on a personal and global scale. The great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 2020, for example, was seen by many astrologers as the dawn of a new era, an age of transformation and awakening. Some believed that this alignment signified a shift in the collective consciousness, ushering in a period of social and technological upheaval. Yet not all alignments are interpreted as positive. Throughout history, certain alignments have been linked to signs of disaster. The ancient Romans believed that particular star configurations foretold the fall of empires or the collapse of governments. Modern times, conspiracy theorists and doomsayers often point to alignments as signs of impending chaos, whether it be natural disasters, political instability, or the collapse of societal structures. Even with the rise of modern science, which explains star alignments as part of the natural rhythms of the cosmos, the mysticism surrounding these events endures. Some still view them as divine signals, offering guidance about the fate of humanity. As we continue to study the stars, the question remains: are these alignments mere coincidences, or do they reveal deeper truths about the universe and our place within it? Do they hold the key to understanding our past, present, and future, or are they simply a reminder of our inherent desire to find meaning in the cosmos? As more alignments occur in the future, it will be interesting to see they continue to influence the course of history. Will future generations look to the stars as their ancestors did? Will star alignments still hold the same power to shape the future of humanity? Or will they become just another fascinating quirk of the universe, detached from any deeper meaning? The mirror world theory. The mirror world theory suggests that every object and person in our universe has a counterpart in a parallel reality, one that reflects our own world, but with subtle, sometimes startling differences. This theory proposes the existence of a mirror universe, where the laws of physics and the fundamental structure of reality are the same, but the positions and behaviors of entities are reversed in ways that we can hardly comprehend. For ancient thinkers, this idea wasn't entirely new. Many cultures have long entertained the concept of an alternate realm where everything is reversed, where our twin exists, and where outcomes unfold differently based on parallel choices. In Greek mythology, for example, there was the concept of the underworld, a shadowy mirror of the earthly realm. The Egyptians believed in a duat, a mirror universe of sorts, where the soul would journey after death, encountering reflections of the physical world, but with a different, ethereal form. The mirror world theory is often linked to the quantum theory of parallel universes, specifically the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This interpretation, proposed by physicist Hugh Everett in 1957, posits that every quantum event spawns a new universe. In this infinite multiverse, every choice we make creates a branching path leading to another version of ourselves living out a different reality. The mirror world theory takes this a step further, suggesting that these universes are not only parallel but exact reflections, like a mirror showing an alternate inverted version of our universe. In some versions of this theory, our mirror world is said to exist on the opposite side of the veil of space and time, beyond our ability to perceive it. While we can't directly access or observe this parallel universe, there may be glimpses, moments where the mirror world bleeds into our own. Some scientists speculate that phenomena like déjà vu or glimpses of shadowy figures could be moments when the veil between our world and the mirror world thins, offering us fleeting insights into this strange parallel existence. The theory also suggests that, in the mirror world, the events we know are inverted. Victories could be defeats, peace could be war, and joy could be sorrow. People may experience lives that run in reverse or take paths that deviate from what we would expect, driven by different choices or circumstances. The most fascinating idea, however, is that we might even encounter alternate versions of ourselves in this world versions who made different decisions, experienced different outcomes, and now lead lives that are, in some ways, opposite to ours. Some interpretations of the mirror world theory lean into more speculative and mystical territory, suggesting that the mirror world might even house alternate forms of consciousness beings or forces that mirror our thoughts, feelings, and actions, but with a malevolent or even supernatural twist. These entities could be aware of us and we of them without fully understanding the nature of the connection. It might even suggest that the darker or suppressed parts of our personalities, those aspects we don't acknowledge, live out their own lives in this mirrored realm, constantly reflecting back what we choose not to see in ourselves. As the theory grows in popularity, it sparks questions not only about the structure of the universe, but about the nature of existence itself. Are we truly alone in our version of reality? Or are we part of an intricate web of interconnected mirror universes, each with its own reflections of life, death, light, and dark? What would happen if we could bridge the gap between these worlds? Could we find a way to interact with our mirror selves, or would it be an invitation to chaos and confusion, as our realities collide in an unimaginable clash? For now, the mirror world theory remains speculative, intriguing, yet elusive, inviting us to question the very fabric of reality and wonder if the world we see around us is truly all there is. The Tree of Memory. The Tree of Memory is a concept rooted in the idea that our memories are not simply stored in our minds like data in a computer, but are instead part of a larger, interconnected network, one that spans beyond the individual and connects us to the collective experiences of humanity. This ancient idea can be found in various mythologies and traditions, often symbolized by a vast ancient tree that grows deep within the human psyche, its roots entwined in the fabric of time itself. In ancient cultures, trees have long been associated with wisdom, knowledge, and the passage of time. The Norse mythology tells of Yggdrasil, the world tree, a cosmic tree that connects all 9 realms of existence, including the world of humans, the gods, and even the dead. Similarly, the Celts viewed trees as sacred beings, with each species representing different aspects of human experience and consciousness. The Tree of Memory, in many ways, echoes these ancient symbols, suggesting that our memories are not isolated, but are connected to a much larger, invisible network. The concept of the Tree of Memory takes root in modern science through the lens of neural networks and consciousness. Some neuroscientists propose that the brain functions much like a vast interconnected web, with each memory, experience, or thought branching off from others in complex and unpredictable ways. Just as the roots of a tree spread out beneath the surface, our memories are rooted in the deep recesses of the unconscious mind, influenced by both personal and collective experiences. This idea also connects to the phenomenon of epigenetics, the theory that certain memories and experiences can be passed down through generations in ways that we are only beginning to understand. Just as the branches of a tree grow over time, the memories of our ancestors, their traumas, their joys, and their victories might be stored in our DNA, subtly influencing our perceptions and actions. The tree of memory, in this sense, is not just a metaphor, but a potential biological reality, a way of understanding how the past continues to shape our present, often without our conscious awareness. The tree of memory also speaks to the human desire for immortality and the need to preserve our legacies. Just as a tree can live for centuries, its roots and branches spreading across vast distances, our memories can transcend time, passed down through stories, rituals, and even the very actions we take in life. The concept suggests that the essence of who we are, our thoughts, our experiences, our very identities, can live on even after we are gone, continuing to shape the world long after our bodies have decayed. But what happens when the tree of memory begins to decay or fade away? Some interpretations of this concept suggest that when we lose our memories, whether through aging, trauma, or other means, we are essentially severing our connection to this larger network of experience, cutting off the roots that bind us to our past and our ancestors. The branches that represent our personal memories begin to wither, and we lose the sense of continuity that gives our lives meaning. This decay of memory is not only personal, but has cultural implications as well, as entire societies lose touch with their collective history, forgetting the lessons of the past and repeating mistakes. In some spiritual and philosophical traditions, the tree of memory is also seen as a symbol of personal enlightenment and awakening. The idea is that by cultivating a deeper awareness of our memories and their connections to the larger tapestry of existence, we can unlock hidden truths about ourselves, world around us. In this sense, the tree of memory is not merely a repository of past experiences, but a living entity capable of growth, transformation, and renewal. By tending to this tree within us, we can grow wiser and more attuned to the deeper currents of life. The tree of memory invites us to ask profound questions about the nature of our consciousness, our past, and our connection to the world around us. What if the memories we carry are not just our own? What if they are echoes of those who came before us, the whispers of ancient wisdom that still shape our thoughts and actions? And what if, in the process of remembering, we are not just reconnecting with our personal histories, but also tapping into a much greater, universal memory, a network that transcends time, space, and individual identity? The silence after Babel. The story of the Tower of Babel is one of the most famous and enigmatic myths in human history. According to the Bible, humanity once spoke a single language and united in their ambition to build a tower that reached the heavens. But, in an act of divine retribution, God struck down the tower, scattering the people across the earth and confusing their language so they could no longer understand each other. The silence that followed was not just the cessation of speech, but a profound shift in human history, one that would echo through time, influencing the course of civilization and culture. The silence after Babel is a powerful metaphor for the fragmentation of human unity, the breakdown of collective understanding, and the mysterious consequences of our quest for power and knowledge. While the story is ancient, its implications still resonate today. In a sense, it represents the first great division of humanity, the separation of cultures, ideas, and languages, and the birth of the complexity and conflict that would shape our world. But the silence after Babel goes beyond the simple act of people speaking different languages. It speaks to the deep psychological and existential divide that can arise when communication breaks down. Language is not merely a tool for conveying information. It is the medium through which we connect to each other, to our culture, and to our understanding of the world. When that connection is severed, when words fail us, we are left in a kind of existential silence. A silence that is not just the absence of sound, but the absence of meaning, of shared experience. This silence is not confined to the biblical story, but appears throughout history and even in modern life. The Tower of Babel story can be seen as a metaphor for any moment when communication falters, whether in the breakdown of relationships, the collapse of civilizations, or even the isolation felt by individuals in the modern world. In each of these instances, there is a profound sense of loss. The loss of mutual understanding, the loss of the shared language that binds us together as human beings. In a more philosophical sense, the silence after Babel speaks to the limitations of human knowledge and the inevitability of fragmentation. Despite our best efforts to understand the world, to build connections, and to unify our cultures, we are constantly confronted with the reality that our understanding is partial, that our perceptions are limited, and that our languages and the concepts they represent are inherently flawed. The story of Babel reminds us of the fragility of our attempts at unity and the humility we must adopt in the face of our collective ignorance. But there is also a deeper layer to the silence, a silence that is not just a result of misunderstanding, but one that emerges from the unknown, from the ineffable. Perhaps the silence after Babel is a reflection of something more profound, a cosmic silence, a silence that envelops the universe itself. This idea suggests that no matter how much we strive to communicate and understand, there are limits to what can be expressed, understood, or known. The silence is a reminder of the vastness and mystery of existence, a reminder that there will always be things beyond our grasp, just as the builders of the Tower of Babel could never truly reach the heavens. On a more existential level, the silence after Babel could also represent a kind of spiritual crisis, a moment when we realize that language, culture, and even reason itself may not be enough to answer the deepest questions of existence. It is a silence that challenges us to look inward, to seek meaning not in the external world or in the words we speak, but in the silent spaces between them. This silence, in a paradoxical way, may hold the key to deeper understanding. The Tower of Babel may have fallen, but the silence it left in its wake continues to reverberate through the corridors of history, culture, and thought. It is a silence that speaks not just to our division, but to the fundamental questions of human existence. What is the nature of understanding? What is the power of language? And how does it shape our reality? And what happens when language fails us? When words can no longer bridge the gap between individuals, cultures, or even between us and the universe itself? The silence after Babel may be an ancient myth, but its lessons are as relevant today as ever. In a world of increasing communication, social media, and instant access to information, we must ask ourselves, are we truly understanding each other, or are we simply speaking past each other, trapped in our own echo chambers? And, more profoundly, are we listening to the silence between the words, to the deeper truths that may lie hidden there? The God that forgot us. The concept of a God or higher power has been at the center of human civilization, providing a source of guidance, protection, and purpose. But imagine for a moment that this God, the one we believed was watching over us, simply forgot about us. What if the divine force that once shaped our world, guided our actions, and answered our prayers withdrew, leaving us to drift through existence without its intervention? In ancient cultures, gods were not abstract figures. They were seen as intimately connected to human lives. They controlled the forces of nature, shaped destinies, and provided wisdom. However, over the centuries, as societies evolved and knowledge expanded, the gods gradually became distant figures in the background. What if this shift was not just a result of human progress, but a sign that we have been abandoned by the very force we once relied on? This unsettling thought brings about a sense of cosmic loneliness. If there was a God that once guided our lives, why does it seem absent now? Why do we suffer without intervention? Why do we face the trials of life alone? Are we truly alone? Or has the divine simply receded into the shadows of our history? Many ancient religious texts speak of gods withdrawing from the world, leaving humanity to fend for itself. This idea is echoed in the writings of philosophers such as Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously declared that God is dead, signaling the collapse of traditional religious beliefs in the modern world. Nietzsche suggested that as humanity progresses and develops, the divine fades into irrelevance, and people are left to create meaning and purpose for themselves. This idea of divine abandonment challenges our understanding of existence and purpose. Without the guidance of a higher power, what do we have to rely on? The very notion of a forgotten God forces us to confront the possibility that the universe may not have a higher meaning or direction. In this sense, humanity may have been abandoned, not because of divine cruelty, but because we outgrew the need for divine answers. But perhaps this forgotten God is not an actual absence of divinity. Maybe it's a symbol of how human understanding of the divine has evolved. As science has progressed, the need for an omnipotent God to explain natural phenomena has diminished. Our once dependence on divine intervention has given way to the power of human reason and discovery. Perhaps the forgotten God simply represents a shift in how we perceive the universe and our place within it. However, there's also the possibility that the God we once believed in was never truly there to begin with. Perhaps the God was simply a projection of human needs and desires, an attempt to make sense of an unpredictable world. As we gained more knowledge, we began to see through the illusions of divine explanations and realized we had the power to shape our own futures. The loss of this God opens up a vast empty space for humanity to fill. Without divine oversight, we are left to define our own morality, purpose, and destiny. The responsibility for our actions and our world falls squarely on our shoulders, and we must create meaning in a universe that offers none inherently. For some, this is a terrifying prospect, but for others, it is an empowering one. The loss of a God could be a reminder of human resilience and independence. Without a God guiding our path, we must rely on our own creativity, intellect, and strength to navigate the challenges of life. This might be the greatest gift of all, the freedom to choose our own destiny, unbound by divine expectations. In this way, the idea of a forgotten God also raises questions about our relationship to the universe. Do we need a divine presence to find meaning in our lives? Or have we simply evolved to the point where we no longer require supernatural explanations for our existence? The God that forgot us could be a metaphor for our spiritual evolution, a reflection of how humanity has moved beyond the need for divine oversight. It challenges us to look inward and find meaning, purpose, and connection within ourselves and the world around us, rather than seeking it from an absent deity. Ultimately, whether we have been forgotten by a God, outgrown the need for one, or never had one at all, we are left with the same question. What will we do with this freedom? Create meaning in our lives in a universe that seems indifferent to our existence. The ritual of sleepwalkers. Sleepwalking, a phenomenon that many regard as a strange and inexplicable occurrence, has long intrigued both modern science and ancient cultures. While today's researchers often explain sleepwalking as a result of neurological or psychological disturbances, ancient civilizations believed there was far more to this behavior. Instead of dismissing it as mere disorder, they saw it as a powerful ritual, an act connecting the human soul to another realm, a bridge between the waking world and the spiritual dot. In ancient Egypt, for instance, sleep was not simply seen as a necessary rest for the body. It was thought to be a sacred time, when the soul could leave the physical body and explore the realms of the gods, the afterlife, and even other planes of existence. Those chosen to perform spiritual roles, such as shamans or high priests, often used trance-like states and rituals to enter these realms. But what if sleepwalking, far from being a random, uncontrolled act, was part of a sacred journey for certain individuals, a journey that allowed them to walk between worlds without ever waking? Sleepwalkers, with their wandering and sometimes erratic movements, could have been perceived as engaging in a kind of ritualized travel during sleep, their bodies moving through the physical world while their souls roamed the spiritual. The idea that their motions were random or disoriented may be a modern misconception. Perhaps the movements had meaning, a sacred pattern or task, performed by their souls on behalf of the divine. In this light, sleepwalking becomes less about disorder and more about a deeper connection with the cosmos, one we no longer understand. As civilizations like the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians believed, the night was sacred. It was a time when the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead, the physical and the spiritual, was at its thinnest. Certain rituals and practices were thought to strengthen the soul's journey, ensuring safe passage to the afterlife or communion with gods. But as time went on, these practices became obscured by skepticism, and the idea of sleep as a divine portal faded into myth. We began to view sleepwalking as merely a disorder, dismissing its potential as a spiritual act that once had profound meaning. In more recent years, scientists have studied sleepwalking through a psychological lens, offering various explanations, from sleep disorders to genetic predisposition. Yet, we cannot overlook the fact that throughout history, people believed sleepwalking wasn't a flaw, but rather an act with great purpose. Was it possible that certain individuals were gifted with the ability to transcend the material world through sleep, carrying out important tasks in realms unknown? Could we be missing a vital piece of the puzzle by reducing sleepwalking to a neurological condition? Perhaps modern sleepwalkers are unwittingly engaging in a ritual once practiced by ancient cultures, a ritual we no longer recognize. When a person sleepwalks, they may appear lost or confused, yet in ancient eyes, they could have been fulfilling their spiritual role, moving through the sacred worlds, fulfilling duties in the unseen. The wandering steps could have been seen as purposeful acts, each one taking them closer to divine knowledge or guidance. Could it be that some sleepwalkers are still performing these sacred rituals today, unaware of their own connection to the divine? Sleepwalking, then, might not just be a condition we have to study and understand in purely medical terms. It might be a window into a past tradition, an ancient practice that remains hidden beneath the surface of our modern consciousness. The truth is, we may never fully understand the depths of this mysterious phenomenon, but one thing is certain. Sleepwalking could once have been a gateway, a ritual in the truest sense, allowing humans to walk between the realms of the living and the spiritual. So, next time you encounter a sleepwalker, or even experience the phenomenon yourself, consider this. Could there be a deeper meaning to their actions? Could sleepwalking, far from being a modern anomaly, be an ancient practice we've simply forgotten? Perhaps in their sleep, they are still traveling between worlds, carrying out tasks, fulfilling prophecies, or reaching into realms we can no longer access. The final bell that never rang. The concept of time is perhaps the most mysterious force in our existence. From the ancient cultures who viewed time as cyclical, to modern science's obsession with the arrow of time, the way we understand and experience time shapes everything about how we live. But what if time itself isn't as linear as we believe? What if there's a deeper, more elusive concept of time that ancient civilizations grasped, but we've since forgotten or lost? Throughout history, many cultures have used the metaphor of a bell to signify the end of time, the final moment before the universe collapses or transcends into something else. For the ancient Egyptians, time was measured by the movements of the stars, each moment ringing out like a celestial bell, marking the rhythm of the universe. They believed that when the final bell would ring, it would signal the end of everything, but not just the end. It would be a transition into something greater, an infinite rebirth. For them, the final bell was more than a simple marking of time's passage. It was a key to the universe's ultimate mystery. However, what if this bell never rings? What if the concept of a final bell is nothing more than a projection of our desire to find closure? Some theorists suggest that the universe might never experience a definitive end, no final moment when everything halts and collapses. Instead, we could be stuck in an eternal cycle of rebirth and destruction, where every end is simply a transition to another beginning. The bell might not ring because there's no finality to time itself. It's a never-ending process, where we exist as part of an ongoing loop that never truly concludes. This idea is not just a poetic thought. It has deep philosophical implications. Ancient Greek philosophers, such as Heraclitus, argued that time is in a constant state of flux, and everything is in a process of constant becoming. In this view, the end of the universe, the ringing of that final bell, would be an illusion driven by our need for resolution. The universe, instead, continues in a state of perpetual evolution, never truly finishing, but always morphing into something new. The idea of a final, irreversible bell may also stem from our understanding of mortality. We see our lives as finite, and in doing so, we project that same finitude onto the universe itself. But what if this projection is a misunderstanding? What if the universe operates in a fundamentally different way, one where endings don't exist, and everything is part of an eternal, shifting present? This interpretation would mean that our perception of time, and our fear of its eventual end, might be flawed from the start. Ancient cultures had many beliefs surrounding the idea of an inevitable cosmic moment, like the ringing of the final bell. The Mayans, for example, believed that the end of time would not mark destruction, but a transformation of reality itself. Similarly, the ancient Hindus spoke of Kalachakra, the wheel of time, which is constantly turning but never stops. This cyclical concept suggests that time is not a one-way road, but a continuous loop, where the end is simply a return to the beginning. What if this cyclical nature of time is the final bell we've been waiting for, but it never rings because the cycle keeps going? Today, in our search for meaning and understanding, we continue to look for the ringing of that final bell. We seek closure, an end that confirms that our universe and our lives have purpose. But perhaps the truth is more profound, that the universe is not bound by a finality we can comprehend. Instead, it is in a constant state of becoming, forever expanding, contracting, and evolving into new forms. As we ponder this, we must ask ourselves, are we seeking an end because we fear the unknown, or do we truly understand that the universe may never come to a final halt? Is our quest for a ringing bell a desire for closure that might never come, or a misguided attempt to define something infinite? The final bell may never ring, but perhaps it's because time itself is infinite, and the end is just another part of the eternal cycle.